The moment I saw her, I knew. I had stepped outside the bar for some air, my beer half finished on the counter. The night was thick with the scent of city smoke and spilled liquor. That's when I saw her, Emily, draped over a man I instantly recognized. Jake Carter. Star striker. Womanizer. The kind of guy who didn't care whose wife he was screwing, as long as she was willing. Emily was more than willing. She tossed her blonde curls over her shoulder, laughed that fake, high-pitched laugh she only used when she was trying to impress someone, and ran her manicured fingers over his chest like she'd done to me 1,000 times before. Rage surged through my veins. My knuckles clenched. The sound of my heartbeat roared in my ears. She turned, and our eyes met. A moment of hesitation flickered in her expression, but it was gone just as fast, replaced by something worse. A smirk. I took a step forward, fists shaking. She did the unthinkable. She grabbed Jake's hand and practically purred, "I just have to ride this stallion tonight." My body turned to stone. My mind screamed at me to do something, say something, stop her. Jake looked at me then, as if I was nothing, just some pathetic joke. Like he had already won. That's when I ran. I shoved past a group of people on the sidewalk and bolted toward them. "Emily. If you get in that car, I swear to God, I'll deal with him first. And then I'll come for you." She didn't stop. She didn't even flinch. She just picked up her pace, practically running in her heels. And before she ducked into that sleek black car, she turned back, waved, and said, "Sorry, honey. You can find yourself a hottie too. Bye." The car door slammed shut. The engine roared to life. And just like that, my wife was gone. Jake's car peeled out of the parking lot, leaving behind the stench of burnt rubber and betrayal. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, fists clenched, heart hammering, my entire life crumbling in real time. I kept my promise. And when I struck back, I played for high stakes. I stood there, watching the red taillights disappear into the night, my mind spinning so fast I thought I might black out. A couple of people from the bar had come outside, whispering, stealing glances at me like I was some pathetic loser. Maybe I was. But not for long. My breath came hard and fast. My hands trembled, but not from sadness. No. This wasn't heartbreak. This wasn't grief. This was something far, far worse. A rage so pure it burned cold. I turned on my heel and stormed back inside the bar. My untouched beer sat there, mocking me. I grabbed it, chugged the rest in one go, and slammed it back on the counter. "Another," I growled at the bartender. He hesitated but poured it. As he slid it across, he muttered, "Tough night, man." I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Oh, you could say that. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to do something. Track her phone. Call her. Get in my car and chase them down. But no. No, that's what a desperate man would do. And I was no longer desperate. I was planning. Jake Carter thought he won tonight. He thought he could take my wife, rub it in my face, and drive off into the night like some goddamn king. And Emily had the audacity to look me in the eye and throw away 10 years like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. Fine. Let's see who has the last laugh. I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Hey, Tyler," I said when my friend picked up. "Need a favor?" Tyler was quiet for a second, then let out a low whistle. "You sound like a man about to do something real stupid." "Not stupid," I corrected. "Necessary." The line went silent for a moment. Then, "Where are you?" "Downtown. Just watched my wife get into Jake Carter's car." "Holy s******, Tyler muttered. "Dude." "Yeah." I took a deep breath. Meet me at my place in an hour. I hung up. Tyler was the kind of guy who didn't ask questions. He knew me well enough to understand that when I said I was handling something, I meant it. I left the bar, my body moving on autopilot. I wasn't drunk, but I felt like I was floating. A strange sense of clarity washed over me. I drove home in silence. The house was dark when I got there. Empty. Cold. I walked into our bedroom, took one look at the neatly made bed, and nearly punched the wall. Instead, I turned to the closet. Emily's clothes, her stupid designer bags, the perfume she doused herself in every morning. I grabbed one of her dresses off the hanger and stared at it. She'd worn this on our anniversary. That same anniversary she had probably already forgotten. I laughed. Actually laughed. Then I ripped it in half. The sound was satisfying. Like tearing away the last piece of whatever illusion I'd been living under. I heard Tyler's car pull up outside. A moment later, he let himself in. "All right," he said, stepping into the living room. "How bad is it?" I turned to face him, my expression hard. "It's gonna get worse." Tyler sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "All right, man. I'm here. What's the plan?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, tossed him one. "She thinks she can humiliate me," I said, twisting the cap off mine. "Thinks she can a famous soccer player and walk away laughing." Tyler leaned against the counter, watching me carefully. "And?" "She's wrong." The next morning, Emily still hadn't come home. No text. No call. Nothing. I wasn't surprised. In fact, I was counting on it. Because while she was busy rolling around in silk sheets, I was busy setting the stage. I called a lawyer. I called the bank. Froze the joint accounts before she could touch a dime. Then I made another call. One to the press. See, Jake Carter had a reputation. The kind that sponsors didn't like. The kind that could ruin careers. And my wife? She was about to become very, very famous. By the time Emily finally waltzed back in, looking smug and wearing a different dress than the one she left in, the storm had already started. She barely made it 3 steps inside before I tossed my phone at her. Her eyes flicked to the screen. A headline. Big. Bold. Brutal. Jake Carter caught in scandal with married woman, exclusive photos inside. Her face drained of color. "What?" "I told you," I said, leaning back against the couch. "If you got in that car, I'd deal with him first." She gawked at me, mouth opening and closing like a fish. "And now," I added, standing up, "it's your turn." Emily's face twisted, her confidence crumbling right in front of me. She gripped my phone like it might change the words on the screen. What did you do?" she hissed, her voice no longer dripping with arrogance. I smirked. "Oh, I just made sure the world knew exactly what you are." She threw the phone at me, missing by a mile. It clattered to the floor. "You psycho," she shrieked. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yeah," I said, stepping closer, watching her back up like a trapped animal. "I made sure Jake Carter's sponsors see what kind of family man he really is. Do you know how much money that guy was set to make next season? Do you know how fast they drop guys with scandals like this?" Her eyes widened, the realization sinking in. "You're lying," she spat. But her voice wavered. I pulled out my second phone and opened the news. "Really?" "Because ESPN picked it up." I tossed the phone onto the coffee table, the article flashing across the screen. "And TMZ. Oh, and his club already made a statement. You want to read it?" She didn't move. "They're considering a suspension," I continued, my voice dripping with mock sympathy. Apparently, public conduct unbecoming of a professional athlete is a big no-no. Who knew? Emily's hands shook. She whirled away from me, gripping her head. You ruined everything. I laughed. A real, deep, satisfied laugh. Oh, sweetheart, I said, walking around the couch, forcing her to look at me. I ruined everything? You got in his car. You let him touch you. You laughed in my face. My voice dropped, cold and sharp. You threw away our marriage like it was a cheap souvenir. She turned on me, eyes wild. You don't get to play the victim. You're just a bitter, pathetic little man who couldn't keep up. You weren't enough for me, and you damn well know it. And there it was. The truth. I nodded slowly, taking in every venomous word. Good, I said. I wanted to hear you say it. Just once. Her lip curled. Oh, please. What did you think? That I'd cry? Beg for forgiveness? She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. You really think I care if Jake gets dropped from his stupid contract? He's rich. He'll be fine. You sure? I cocked my head. Because from what I hear, his wife isn't taking it so well. The blood drained from Emily's face. I grinned. Oh, you didn't know? I grabbed my phone and pulled up another article. Apparently, she was blindsided. Just like me. And unlike you, she actually has dignity. Guess what she did this morning? Emily just stared. She filed for divorce. I let that hang between us. Half of everything. And let's not forget the sponsors leaving him high and dry. That man you thought was your golden ticket? I let out a whistle. Yeah. He's about to lose millions. Emily's mouth opened, then closed. She stepped back, shaking her head. No. No, he told me. I stepped in close enough to see the fear in her eyes. What did he tell you? That you were special? That he'd take care of you? I laughed softly. Yeah. That's cute. She swallowed hard. You don't know anything. Oh, but I do. I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper. Because when his wife left him, guess who he called first? Emily blinked rapidly, her breathing uneven. Not you, I said, relishing the way her face fell. No, he was too busy begging her not to take his money. I pulled back, letting her digest that. Pack your stuff, I said, my voice flat. You're done here. Her head snapped up. Excuse me? You heard me. I walked past her, heading to the bedroom. I had the locks changed this morning. You've got 10 minutes to get your things and leave, or I'll throw them on the lawn. She followed me, her heels clicking against the hardwood. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can, I said, pulling open the closet and grabbing a suitcase. I tossed it onto the bed. And I am. She hesitated, her hands clenching into fists. This isn't over, she whispered. I zipped open the suitcase and started throwing in her clothes. It is for me. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, she grabbed the suitcase and stormed out. The front door slammed so hard the walls shook. I stood there for a moment, listening to the silence she left behind. Then I exhaled. For the first time in months, I felt free. The silence in the house was deafening. It was a strange kind of quiet, the kind that only comes after a storm rips through and leaves destruction in its wake. I should have felt relief. Should have felt victorious. But instead, I just felt hollow. I walked over to the window and pulled back the curtain. Emily was still outside, standing next to her suitcase, furiously typing on her phone. Probably calling Jake. Probably begging him to pick her up. I smirked. Good luck with that. The thing about men like Jake Carter? They don't do damage control for women like Emily. She was fun until she wasn't. Until she became a liability. And now? Now she was just another problem he had to deal with. She finally looked up, scanning the street, waiting for someone to save her. But no one was coming. I let the curtain fall back into place and turned away. She wasn't my problem anymore. I walked through the house, passing the memories we built together, now nothing more than set decorations in a play that had ended. The framed wedding photo on the wall? Gone. The little notes she used to leave me on the fridge? Crumpled and trashed. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey and poured myself a glass. Sat on the couch. Took a sip. And then the phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Yeah. Silence on the other end. And then. You're a dead man. The voice was low, dripping with rage. I didn't need to ask who it was. Jake, I said, swirling the whiskey in my glass. Took you long enough. You think this is funny? He growled. You think you can pull this S*** and just walk away? I chuckled, leaning back. What's wrong, superstar? Sponsors not too happy with the headlines? The sound of something slamming echoed through the phone. You don't know who the F*** you're messing with. I know exactly who I'm messing with, I said. A washed-up soccer player who thought he could screw another man's wife and get away with it. I took another sip, letting the silence stretch. How's your wife, by the way? Oh, wait. You don't have one anymore. His breathing turned ragged. I swear to God, You'll what? I cut him off. Come find me? Teach me a lesson? I leaned forward, my voice calm. Jake. Buddy. You're not the predator here. You're the prey. Silence. Then the line went dead. I smiled and tossed the phone onto the coffee table. Let him come. I finished my drink, then stood up and stretched. Walked to the bathroom. Splashed some cold water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. Not because I looked broken. But because I didn't. The man staring back at me wasn't the same man who had watched his wife climb into another man's car. He wasn't the fool who had spent years believing in something that never really existed. No. This man was something else. Something dangerous. A knock at the door. I dried my hands and walked back into the living room. Another knock, louder this time. I glanced at the clock. Midnight. Too late for friendly visits. I walked over and checked the peephole. Jake. Grinning. I let out a slow breath. Then I unlocked the door and pulled it open. We stood there, staring at each other. He looked like hell. Disheveled, shirt wrinkled, a bruise forming under his left eye. Guess his soon-to-be ex-wife didn't take the news well. Nice place, he said, stepping forward. Mind if I come in? I didn't move. I mind a lot of things. He smirked. You think you're real smart, don't you? I crossed my arms. Smarter than you. His jaw tightened. Then, without warning, he swung. I dodged. Barely. His fist skimmed my jaw, and I stumbled back. But I recovered fast. I hit him first. A solid punch to the ribs. Then another. He grunted, doubling over, but he wasn't done. He lunged, tackling me to the ground. We crashed into the coffee table, sending my glass of whiskey flying. The bottle shattered against the floor. He got in a punch. Then another. Pain exploded in my cheek, but I gritted my teeth and shoved him off. He stumbled back, giving me just enough time to grab the nearest thing, an empty whiskey bottle, and smash it over his head. He went down hard. Panting, I stood over him, watching as he groaned and rolled onto his side. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. I wiped my mouth and exhaled. Then I crouched down, grabbed a fistful of his shirt, and yanked him close. This, I said, my voice deadly calm, was me being nice. He blinked up at me, dazed. You ever come near me again, I whispered, and I won't be. I let go, shoving him back against the floor. He lay there, breathing hard. I stood up, adjusted my shirt, and stepped over him. Opened the door. Get out. He didn't move at first. But eventually, he pushed himself up, swayed slightly, then stumbled toward the door. He stopped in the doorway, turning to look at me one last time. This isn't over, he muttered. I smiled. It is for me. Then I slammed the door in his face. The silence returned. But this time, it felt right. I stood there for a long moment, heart still pounding, adrenaline buzzing under my skin. The room smelled like whiskey and blood. My blood. His blood. Didn't matter. I walked to the bathroom, turned on the light, and looked at myself in the mirror. My lip was split, my jaw already bruising. I pressed a hand to my ribs, tender. Not broken. I smirked. Jake got off easy. I wiped the blood off my face, rinsed my hands, and grabbed a towel. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty. It felt settled. Like it had been holding its breath for months, waiting for something to break. And now it had. I walked back into the living room, stepping over broken glass. The mess could wait. Right now, I just needed air. I grabbed my jacket, opened the door, and stepped outside. The night was cool, the sky a deep shade of black. Across the street, a car idled. Dark windows. No plates. Jake? No. He wouldn't be that stupid. Still, I didn't like it. I stood there for a moment, hands in my pockets, staring at the car. It didn't move. I smirked. Let them watch. I turned and started walking. Didn't know where I was going, didn't care. I just needed to move, to feel the pavement under my feet, to remind myself that I was still here, still standing. Emily was gone. Jake was handled. But something still felt unfinished. I walked 3 blocks before I heard footsteps behind me. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't turn around. I crossed the street. So did they. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around my keys. My heart rate didn't change, but my body tensed. All right. Let's see how this plays out. I turned down an alley, stepping into the shadows. The footsteps followed. Then they stopped. Silence. Then. You made a big mistake. I smiled. Low voice. Measured tone. Not Jake. Someone else. I turned around, slowly. 2 men. Suits. Clean cut. Not thugs. Not street guys. Professionals. Interesting. One of them stepped forward. You shouldn't have messed with Carter. I tilted my head. You work for him? A pause. Then, not exactly. I nodded. Right. So this is the part where you threaten me, rough me up a little, scare me into backing off? No answer. Just stares. I sighed. Okay, let's get this over with. The first guy moved fast. Real fast. But I was ready. I sidestepped his punch, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. Hard. He yelped, but before I could finish him, the second guy swung. Pain exploded in my ribs. I stumbled back, gritting my teeth. All right. They weren't amateurs. Fine. I could work with that. I launched forward, driving my elbow into the second guy's face. He staggered, blood spraying from his nose. The first guy recovered, lunging at me again. I caught him with an uppercut, sent him crashing against the wall. 2-on-1. Not great odds. But I'd had worse. The second guy wiped blood from his nose and pulled something from his jacket. A gun. I froze. He smirked. That's enough fun for tonight. The first guy got up, rubbing his jaw. Boss wants to talk. Boss. I exhaled, rolling my shoulders. That right? The second guy motioned with the gun. Get in the car. I didn't move. A tense beat passed. Then I grinned. No. The guy blinked. Excuse me? I took a step forward. You want me? Shoot me. I spread my arms. Go ahead. Make some noise. Bring the cops. Let's see how your boss feels about that kind of attention. Silence. They weren't expecting that. The first guy glanced at the second. The second hesitated. Then. A voice from the shadows. That won't be necessary. I turned. A man stepped out of the darkness. Older. Expensive suit. Slicked back hair. Eyes that had seen too much. He smiled. You've been making waves. I crossed my arms. You must be the boss. He chuckled. Call me Vincent. I said nothing. Just waited. Vincent took a step closer. I have a proposition for you. I raised an eyebrow. That so? He nodded. You see, Carter's situation has caused some problems. Problems I need solved. I smirked. And let me guess, you think I'm the guy to solve them? Vincent smiled. Smart man. I let that sit for a moment. Then I laughed. Long, slow. And then I stepped closer, looking him dead in the eye. Not interested. Vincent's smile didn't falter. I think you should reconsider. I leaned in, voice low. I think you should off. The air went heavy. His men tensed. But Vincent? He just chuckled. I like you. Then he turned to leave. We'll be in touch. He disappeared into the night. His men followed. I stood there, watching them go. Then I exhaled. Emily. Jake. And now this. Things were just getting started. The city was quiet. Too quiet. I stood under the flickering streetlight, watching Vincent's car disappear into the night. My ribs ached, my lip was swollen, and my fists still stung from the fight. But none of that mattered. Not now. Because I had just turned down an offer from a man who didn't take no for an answer. And that meant one thing. This wasn't over. I walked back to my house, mind racing. The second I stepped inside, I locked the door, grabbed another drink, and sat down. Staring at the wall. Jake was finished. His little fling with Emily had cost him more than he ever expected. He had no wife, no reputation, and no protection. But Vincent? That was a different story. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was bigger. I pulled out my phone. Scrolled through my contacts. Found the name I was looking for. Tyler Briggs. Ex-cop. Dirty as they come. But reliable when it mattered. I hit call. A groggy voice answered. Who the hell? I need a favor, I said. Silence. Then a sigh. Jesus, man. It's been years. Yeah, I said. And I wouldn't be calling if this wasn't serious. Another pause. Then, all right. Talk. I exhaled. I need everything you can dig up on Vincent Romano. Briggs whistled. That's a big name. I know. You know he's got half the city in his pocket, right? Yeah, I said. That's why I need you. A long pause. Then, this about Emily? I laughed. Short. Bitter. Not anymore. Another silence. Then Briggs sighed. Fine. I'll see what I can do. But if I go down for this. You won't, I said. Just get me what I need. I hung up. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Emily. Jake. Vincent. It all started with a cheating wife. With a simple betrayal. But now? Now I was in something much bigger. And I had a choice. Walk away. Forget it. Start over. Or keep going. Burn it all down. I already knew what I was going to do. I reached for the bottle, poured another drink, and smiled. This wasn't the end. Not yet.
I opened the door and felt my whole life detonate. There she was, Brittany, my wife of 7 years, sitting comfortably on the lap of a tanned, muscle-packed stranger in my own living room. My mother, son, and even Brittany's mom were all there like it was some twisted family picnic. Laughter. Wine. Fake smiles. Like I didn't exist. What's going on? I asked, my voice already breaking in my throat. Brittany turned to me, with her fake LA smile and that sugar-sweet venom in her voice. You're no longer living here, Jason, she said, crossing her arms like she was running the whole damn world now. You have 30 minutes to pack your things. My lover will take care of all of us. Her lover, the guy with the smirk like he'd just won a prize pig at a county fair, didn't even blink. He just rested his hand right on her thigh, and Brittany let him. In front of our son. In front of my own mother. I was stunned. Like someone just unplugged reality. Are you kidding me? I whispered, still in my work uniform from the fire station, still covered in sweat and soot from the blaze I'd just spent 6 hours fighting. You're throwing me out? She laughed. Actually laughed. Don't act like this is some surprise. We both know you've been dragging us down. He's successful. You? You play hero for pennies. I looked over at Ethan, our 6-year-old, who was just staring at his tablet like none of this was happening. My mom stood frozen by the doorway, shaking her head in disbelief. Brittany's mom? She nodded like this was all perfectly normal. That's when it clicked. She didn't just plan this today. This wasn't impulsive. It was an ambush. A divorce ambush. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to rip that smug look off the guy's face. But then I remembered. The prenup. Brittany's parents were the ones who'd insisted I sign it back before the wedding. It's just a formality, they said. You understand, right? Protecting family assets. At the time, I thought it was unnecessary. I loved her. I trusted her. And I signed it. But here's the thing. The prenup was ironclad, and Brittany forgot it exists. I looked her straight in the eye and smiled for the first time that day. You sure about this? She rolled her eyes. I've never been more sure of anything. So I nodded, turned around, and said, give me 30 minutes. I packed only what I needed. Laptop. IDs. My dad's old watch. I didn't even take my clothes. Let her keep them. Let her throw a party with her lover wearing my t-shirts for all I care. Because Brittany just nuked her whole life without realizing she was standing on a minefield herself. The next morning, my phone had 103 missed calls. From her. From her mom. From her friends. I didn't answer a single one. You want to know why? Because I had already sent the prenup to my lawyer, Greg, the night before. The one that said if Brittany cheated, she gets nothing. Not the house. Not the car. Not custody. Not even the dog. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was war. And she just handed me the nuclear codes. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I lay on the couch in my buddy Connor's garage apartment, staring at the ceiling fan spin like a slow-motion wrecking ball. My hands itched for something, revenge, maybe, or just closure. But my heart? It was numb, like someone had poured cement into my chest and left me to harden. At 6:12 a.m., Brittany called again. Missed call number 104. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my email and forwarded the prenup to Greg, adding only 3 words: initiate full enforcement. By 9 a.m., Greg had already filed. That fast. No warning. No negotiation. The contract was clear. Infidelity voided everything. She was entitled to nothing. Not the house, not alimony, not even a slice of my pension. And thanks to a clause I barely remembered, the cheating partner also lost primary custody until the court could evaluate the situation. So I let her call. Let her panic. Let her scream into the void. But I wasn't done yet. I needed to know how long this circus had been going on behind my back. Something told me it wasn't just a fling. Brittany wasn't the type to take risks unless she was already convinced she'd win. So I called in a favor. See, when you're a firefighter, you make a few interesting friends. One of them is Noah, a cybercrime specialist who now works for a private security firm. I helped pull his kid out of a flooded basement last year. He owed me. Noah, I need you to dig, I told him. Her phone, socials, email. I want the whole map. He didn't ask questions. By noon, he sent me screenshots. Hundreds of them. Brittany's Instagram DMs were loaded with messages to a guy named Derek, a personal trainer from Scottsdale with abs like a Calvin Klein ad and a vocabulary that wouldn't pass 3rd grade. Pictures, voice notes, plans, hotel receipts. Even one message where she wrote, "Can't wait to do that thing again. He still thinks I'm going to yoga." There were 23 separate dates over the past 5 months. 23 times she kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me, hugged our son, and then disappeared into motel rooms with that low-rent meathead. She even used our joint account to pay for some of the hotels. That was the moment something inside me cracked, not in grief, but in resolve. This wasn't just betrayal. This was warfare. But she made one mistake bigger than all the others. She trusted that I'd crumble. Around 4 p.m., I went back to the house while she was gone. Greg had already filed for an emergency motion to freeze our shared assets. That meant I had legal access to remove anything that was mine. Furniture? Nope. Didn't care. But I wanted the safe. It was still in the closet, hidden behind her pile of overpriced purses. Inside it, everything I needed. My old passport. Our wedding video flash drive, which, ironically, would help my case. A small velvet box with my grandfather's military medals. And a black notebook, her diary. I should have stopped there. But I didn't. I opened it. The first page read, "The key to getting away with something is making him feel like he's the crazy one." My hands clenched. I read more. She detailed how she gradually distanced me from her emotionally, how she picked fights to push me away, how she even manipulated her friends into believing I was abusive, just in case I need witnesses later, she wrote. I put the diary back, locked the safe, and walked out. Later that night, she texted me. "Can we talk? It's not what you think. You overreacted. I didn't mean for it to go like this." I stared at the screen. Not what I think. I sent her one message, a screenshot of the prenups clause that said, "Infidelity will result in total forfeiture of shared assets and custodial rights." No words. Just that. She didn't reply. But 10 minutes later, Derek did. Yeah. He messaged me. "Back off, bro. You lost. She chose me. Don't make this worse." I laughed. Out loud. Because that was the moment I realized they still didn't know. They didn't know the prenup was real. They thought this was just a fight. That I'd come crawling back, or maybe spiral into some desperate plea for forgiveness. They had no idea what was coming. 3 days. That's how long it took for the illusion to start crumbling for Brittany. 3 days of silence from me. 3 days without a single word from Ethan, my son. 3 days of her getting served papers. 3 days of realizing her little power play wasn't a checkmate, but a suicide move. On the morning of the 4th day, I was sitting in Greg's office. He slid the final report from our private investigator across the desk toward me. "Jason," he said, "she's been planning this for over 6 months. The guy's real name isn't Derek, it's Darren Cross. And he's not a trainer. He's been unemployed for almost a year. 3 DUIs. 2 assault charges. 1 sealed case for battery." I stared at the photo clipped to the top of the file. Darren and Brittany kissing in a hot tub. Champagne bottle in hand. Our son's birthday in the background. I'd been working that night. She said she had a migraine and couldn't throw the party herself. My mom stepped in. Turns out, she wasn't sick. Just busy playing house with the clown. I didn't say a word to Greg. I just nodded. Custody hearing is scheduled next week, he added. If she doesn't show up sober, alone, and remorseful, the judge will bury her. Especially with this evidence. That was good. But I wanted more. See, revenge isn't about screaming. It isn't about fists or fire. It's about silence. About making your enemy think they're safe, just long enough for the floor beneath them to disappear. So I waited. The call stopped. But then came the texts. Not from Brittany, she knew better by now. Her friends started texting me. Samantha, her fake bestie who used to tell Brittany she was too good for me. Now she was messaging. Hey, I know this is weird, but I always thought you were the better one. If you ever want to grab coffee. Delete. Then came Rachel, the girl who swore she'd go to war for Brittany. If you need someone to vent to, I'm here. Brittany messed up. Big time. Delete. They were rats. Jumping off a sinking ship. And I was the ocean, pulling them under. The next part? That was the most satisfying moment of the entire disaster. Greg called me one night and said, she's trying to sell the house. I blinked. The house that's legally frozen? Yeah, he chuckled. She doesn't know yet. But the title office flagged it immediately. She's going to find out tomorrow when the deal falls through. And no, she found out. Because the next morning, Brittany showed up, uninvited, at Connor's garage apartment. She was wearing yoga pants, no makeup, her blonde hair tied in a sloppy bun. For once, she didn't look like she was headed to a photo shoot. She looked like a woman who just watched the elevator cable snap beneath her. Jason, she started, already crying, already shaking. Please. Can we talk? Please. I didn't open the door. I stood on the other side, let her cry, let her scream, let her beat her fist against the wood like she was the victim in all this. I waited until she said the thing I was expecting. Please. He left me. Boom. There it was. Darren bailed. Took the car, the cash, her trust, and left her with nothing but mascara-stained cheeks and an empty wine bottle on the table. Classic predator move. Use, bleed, and vanish. Still, I said nothing. She finally slid to the ground, sobbing like a scene out of some cheap soap opera. I texted her, from inside, just 4 words. You picked the wrong side. That night, Greg filed for full custody with psychological review. And I sent the court every piece of evidence. The diary, the motel receipts, the texts, the fake sickness excuses, the manipulated friends, everything. I was done playing her games. Now, she was going to play mine. And I wasn't pulling punches anymore. It was quiet for 2 days after Brittany showed up sobbing at my door. No calls, no texts, no drama. Which only meant one thing, she was planning something. Because Brittany never stayed quiet unless she was about to cause chaos. Greg warned me she's probably trying to flip the narrative. Make herself the victim. That's what people like her do. They don't take responsibility, they redirect it. He was right. On the 3rd morning, my mom called me in tears. Jason, she went to the church, she said shakily. She told Pastor Reeves that you've been emotionally abusive for years. That she only cheated because she was desperate. I didn't even react. I expected this. It was classic Brittany. She's talking to everyone now, my mom added. She's playing the sympathy card. Telling people Darren manipulated her. That she was confused and that she just wants her family back. Oh, now she wanted her family back? Now that the money dried up, the side piece ran off, and the house she tried to sell was legally frozen? I drove straight to Ethan's school that afternoon to pick him up early. I needed time with him. Just me and my son, away from the poison. We went to the arcade. I let him pick out whatever junk he wanted from the ticket counter. He was smiling again. Really smiling. The way he hadn't in weeks. And just when I was about to relax, she showed up. At the damn arcade. Hair done. Makeup on. Dressed like she was walking into court, not into a family zone. She marched up to me and smiled like nothing had happened. Jason, we need to talk. Privately. Ethan immediately froze behind me. No, I said, calmly. We're not doing this here. She ignored me, crouched down to Ethan's level, and reached for him. Baby, don't you want to come home? Mommy misses you so much. Ethan flinched. That was it. That single flinch told me everything. Step away, I snapped, stepping between them. You don't show up unannounced. Not anymore. Not ever again. You can't keep him from me, she hissed under her breath, her smile still plastered on for the other parents. This is illegal. You really want to test how well I've documented your breakdowns, Brittany? I leaned in. I have videos. Audio. You drunk. You screaming. You storming into my mom's house and throwing a glass at her wall. You want to go to war over custody? Bring your A game. She backed off. For the moment. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that night, my friend Jared sent me a link to Brittany's Instagram. She'd posted a picture, her, Darren, an old photo obviously, and Ethan. Caption: families aren't perfect. But love wins. Always. The comments? Flooded with sympathy. Stay strong, girl. You're doing what's best for you and your son. Ignore the haters. Heal. Deal? This woman just tried to boot me out of my own home, parade her boyfriend in front of my child, lie to half the town, and now she was the hero? It was disgusting. But I didn't argue. I didn't comment. I let her bury herself with her own shovel. Instead, I spent the next 2 days collecting everything. Screenshots of her stories. Evidence of her using Ethan in posts for sympathy clout. Statements from my neighbors about the loud fights between her and Darren. Even an email from one of her old coworkers. Turns out Brittany once bragged that she was grooming Jason for financial support until something better came along. Her words. I packaged it all and handed it to Greg. The court date was 3 days away. And Brittany? She had no idea what was coming. She thought this was still about love. She thought I wanted her back. She thought I was still the guy who forgave too much, who loved too hard, who looked the other way. She had no clue I had become someone else. Someone she created with every betrayal, every lie, every smug little laugh. Someone who wasn't afraid anymore. She thought she was fighting for her image. But I was fighting for my son. And in 3 days, I was going to take back everything she tried to steal from me. Courtrooms are strange places. So quiet, so polished, so fake, like putting a fresh coat of paint over a war zone. But I wasn't there for theater. I wasn't there to prove I was a saint. I was there to finish this. Greg and I walked into the courthouse side by side. He carried the file, 2 inches thick, packed with everything. The lies. The betrayal. The manipulation. Her diary entries. The drunken rants. Her fake social media act. The receipts from the motels. The prenup. All of it. And Brittany? She showed up 20 minutes late. In heels too high, lips too red, perfume too loud. Like she thought this was some Bravo reality reunion. She wore a white dress, probably to look pure. But I swear, if irony could kill, she'd have dropped dead right there on the courthouse steps. Darren didn't come. He was long gone. And her attorney? Some junior guy she probably pulled last minute from a billboard. Judge Madeline Harrow entered the room. Stern. Sharp. No patience for nonsense. She opened the file Greg had submitted the night before and raised her eyebrow. Mrs. Walker, she said, addressing Brittany, I assume you've read this? Brittany tried her usual move, tears on cue. Your Honor, I've made mistakes, but I love my family. Jason and I. I didn't ask if you love your family, Judge Harrow snapped. I asked if you've read the evidence against you. That shut her up fast. Greg stood. Your Honor, we are seeking full custody of the child, immediate enforcement of the prenuptial agreement signed on June 7, 2016, and a restraining order until Mrs. Walker completes psychological evaluation and parenting classes. Her lawyer fumbled, stammering about emotional distress and lack of intent. But Judge Harrow wasn't biting. She flipped to the motel receipts. 23 documented rendezvous, she read out loud. During your son's school hours. Followed by repeated instances of using your child in social media posts to manipulate public perception. Is this accurate? Brittany opened her mouth, then closed it again. The silence was loud. Greg slid the diary forward. We have her own words, Your Honor, including passages where she discusses manipulating Mr. Walker into isolation, creating false narratives about emotional abuse to use as a shield in case she was caught cheating, and intentionally using their son to secure sympathy from her social circle. Judge Harrow read silently for a moment. Then she looked up. Mrs. Walker, you have endangered the emotional stability of your child. You've weaponized your personal life for public attention. And based on the evidence presented, you've shown a consistent pattern of deception and emotional manipulation. Brittany's tears finally came for real this time. But it was too late. Effective immediately, the judge said, primary custody is awarded to Mr. Jason Walker. Visitation rights suspended pending psychological evaluation. The prenuptial agreement is upheld in full. Mrs. Walker is entitled to none of the shared marital assets. Brittany gasped, like someone had slapped her. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, with respect. Denied, the judge said. She rolled the dice. She lost. And just like that, The war was over. We walked out of the courtroom. Greg patted me on the back. "You good?" he asked. I nodded, but I wasn't smiling. Not yet. Because as we stepped outside, I saw her on the steps, surrounded by two of her friends, crying into a Starbucks cup like the world had wronged her. I didn't say a word. I didn't look at her. I just kept walking. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom, and I had finally earned mine. That night, Ethan and I ordered pizza, built a pillow fort in the living room, and watched The Incredibles together. He fell asleep halfway through, his head on my chest, breathing softly. That's when I finally smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, it was just peace. No pretending. No lies. No poison. Just me and my boy. And nothing else mattered. You'd think that after court, after the judge's ruling, after Brittany got slapped with full legal reality, she'd disappear. Fade into the background. Go lick her wounds in silence. But no. That would require humility. And Brittany had none. The first sign of trouble came 2 days after the hearing. I was walking Ethan home from school, just a regular Thursday, and suddenly he said something that froze my blood. "Mommy said she's going to take me to Disney World next week," he said, chewing on a gummy bear. I stopped mid-step. "She told you that?" He nodded. "She said you were being mean and that you don't want me to have fun." Of course she did. She wasn't done fighting. She was just changing tactics. She couldn't win in court, so now she was going for emotional warfare, using our son like a pawn in a game she already lost. When we got home, I messaged Greg. "Document this," I wrote. "She's already violating the court's verbal warning." He called back in minutes. "Jason, start recording. Every interaction, every message, every phone call. This isn't over." Not by a long shot. He was right. That night, Brittany texted me directly. "Brittany, I miss my son. This is sick. You're sick. You poisoned him against me." Me, the judge made a decision. "If you want visitation, follow the court's orders." Brittany, "I'm his mother. You can't erase me." Me, "No, you did that yourself." I could practically hear her scream through the phone. The next morning, her sister Vanessa messaged me on Facebook. "You're disgusting. You manipulated the system. Brittany is suicidal now because of you. Hope you're proud." Right. Now I was supposed to feel guilty? Let me make something clear. I didn't want Brittany broken. I wanted her accountable. But she was allergic to responsibility. To her, being caught was worse than being wrong. That weekend, Ethan was invited to a birthday party. I went with him, tried to relax, to be present, but halfway through, Brittany showed up. In a bright red dress, done up like she was going clubbing, and carrying a gift for Ethan. The moment she saw me, her smile dropped. "This isn't your day?" she hissed, stepping close. "I'm his mother." "You're on a court order," I whispered. "You're not even supposed to see him right now." She tilted her head. "Are you going to cause a scene in front of the kids?" "No," I said calmly, pulling out my phone. "But this video will go straight to the judge." She froze. For the first time, really froze. And I saw it, the flicker of fear. Not because she cared about the law, but because she finally realized I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was in control. And she hated it. She dropped the gift on the table and left without another word. Later, I opened it. Inside was a t-shirt that said, "Mommy's boy forever." It still had the store tag. Never touched. Never cared for. Just a prop. A symbol of her desperation. I put it back in the box and shoved it deep in the closet. Ethan never even saw it. He didn't need another manipulation. He needed stability. That night, I sat down and started writing something I hadn't in years, a letter. Not to her. To myself. I wrote down everything. The lies. The gaslighting. The nights I stayed up waiting for her to come home from girls' night, only to smell cheap cologne on her. The way she mocked me when I said I missed her. The time she laughed when I cried the day my dad passed. I wrote until my hands ached. And when I was done, I read it once, then burned it. Because I was done letting her live in my head rent-free. She lost. I won. But most importantly, Ethan won. That was all I needed. 3 weeks passed. 3 peaceful, beautiful weeks. No phone calls. No unannounced visits. No Instagram sob stories. It felt like the storm had finally passed. Ethan was sleeping better, eating better, smiling again. I'd started running in the mornings, trying to rebuild my focus. My world was quiet again. Until I got the letter. Not a message. Not an email. A handwritten letter. I found it folded neatly in my mailbox, no stamp, no envelope. Just my name in her handwriting, like she thought we were in some twisted Nicholas Sparks novel. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. It read, Jason, I know you hate me. I don't blame you, but I never hated you. I just needed something more, something you couldn't give me. That's not your fault. I want to see Ethan. He's still my son. No judge can change that. I'm getting help now. Therapy. I'm trying. You always said you admired my strength. Don't make me use it against you. Brittany. That last line hit like a slap. It wasn't a plea. It was a threat. She wasn't writing to apologize, she was warning me. And I knew exactly what she meant. She was going to try to flip the script, make herself the victim, maybe even claim I was abusive again. Her words had always been weapons. Now she wanted to remind me she could still cut deep. So I responded in the only way she understood. Silence. No reaction. No reply. Let her twist in the void of being ignored. But I wasn't stupid. I knew this was just her first move. Greg called me 2 days later. His voice was tight. She's trying to motion for an emergency hearing. Claims you're emotionally manipulating Ethan and turning him against her. I actually laughed. Seriously. She submitted evidence. A recording. Oh, here we go. I drove straight to Greg's office. He played the audio for me. It was me and Ethan in the living room. I was helping him with his homework. Ethan, I don't want to go with mommy. Me, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but just focus on your spelling. That's it. That was her proof. She edited it, Greg said. Clipped it to make it sound like you're coaching him. She bugged my house, I muttered. Greg nodded grimly. We're filing a restraining order for harassment. You'll want to sweep the house. And check the cars too. I did. I found 2 devices. One in a fake air freshener in the hallway. One under Ethan's booster seat. She had bugged her own child's seat. Let that sink in. This wasn't about motherhood. It was about control. I took everything to the police. They opened an investigation immediately. This wasn't a custody battle anymore. This was criminal. I expected her to go into hiding. But no. She doubled down. She made a public Facebook post. Long, dramatic, full of fake tears typed out in full caps. I'm a mother who's being punished for making a mistake. My husband is destroying my life because I didn't love him the way he needed. He took my son. He took my home. And now he's calling me crazy. I'm a victim too. She tagged my friends, my coworkers, even my mother. It was everywhere. And yet, the comments weren't what she expected. You bugged his house? You're insane. Using your own kid like that? Not cool. Girl, this ain't the way to win him back. It was the first time the public turned on her. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. Because I didn't want her to crash. I just wanted her gone. So Greg filed the final motion. Revocation of all visitation. Indefinite. Pending full psychiatric review. And this time, the judge didn't hesitate. The ruling came in quick. Due to recent events, including unauthorized surveillance, manipulation of digital media, and continued emotional endangerment of the minor, all maternal rights are suspended indefinitely. That night, I tucked Ethan into bed and read him Where the Wild Things Are. Halfway through, he looked up and said, Dad, are the wild things real? I smiled. They were. But they're gone now. It was over. Not the kind of over that comes with applause or champagne or some feel-good Hollywood ending. It was the kind that comes quietly, like the last breath of a dying storm. The house didn't shake. No glass shattered. No fireworks. Just silence. I was sitting on the porch, sipping black coffee as the sun started creeping over the rooftops. Ethan was still asleep inside. Safe. Finally. And Brittany? She was gone. Not legally erased, no. The paperwork still existed. The restraining orders. The custody rulings. But emotionally, mentally, spiritually, she was done. Her attempts to manipulate, twist, control, they had all collapsed under their own weight. The last time I saw her was a week ago. She stood outside the courthouse, hair unwashed, hoodie too big for her frame, makeup smudged like she hadn't slept in days. No camera crew. No staged tears. Just raw, bitter exhaustion. She didn't say a word. She just stared at me, her eyes hollow, like she still didn't understand how it all went wrong. Like she hadn't written the script herself. I nodded once. Not out of pity. Not out of forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. She was done. I walked past her without a word. And that was it. The final chapter. Looking back now, I don't know when she changed. Maybe it was gradual. A lie here. A missed call there. Coldness that built up like dust on furniture. You don't see it until the sun hits it just right. Or maybe she was always like that. Maybe I just refused to see it. But the signs were there. I just didn't want to believe them. I wanted the woman I met in college, the funny, fiery girl who danced barefoot at bonfires and told me the world was ours. But that woman disappeared long before Darren showed up. The Brittany I married had ambition. The Brittany I divorced had entitlement. She believed the world owed her comfort, excitement, a shortcut out of boredom. And I was the guy standing in the way of her fantasy. Well, not anymore. Now it's just me and Ethan. We built a new routine, slow, quiet, healing. Mornings start with cereal and cartoons. Weekends are for fishing trips or baseball games. And every night before bed, we have this little ritual. He picks a comic book, I do the voices, and we end with a whispered promise. You're safe. I got you. Because after all the noise, after all the betrayal, all the lies and threats and gaslighting, that's what matters. Not the revenge. Not the victories in court. The healing. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't carry scars. Some nights I still wake up sweating, hearing her laugh echo in my head. Other times, I catch myself questioning every new person I meet. Trust doesn't come easy anymore. But I'm working on it, piece by piece. Because this wasn't just about Brittany. It was about me too. About the man I let myself become. Passive. Quiet. Shrinking to make room for someone who would never be satisfied, no matter how much I bled. Now, I take up space again. I speak with certainty. I protect what matters, and I let go of what doesn't. So if you're reading this, and you're in the thick of it, if you're waking up every day wondering if you're crazy, if it's your fault, if maybe you just need to try harder, hear me now. You are not the villain for choosing peace over chaos. You are not wrong for walking away from someone who kept moving the finish line. And if they try to twist your reality, lie to your face, gaslight you into silence, don't flinch. Gather the truth. Stand tall. Let them burn their own bridge. You just make sure you're not standing on it when it goes up in flames. As for Brittany, I don't wish her pain. I don't wish her happiness either. I wish her distance. I wish her the kind of silence that forces reflection. The kind she can't manipulate. The kind she can't run from. The kind that reminds her this was all her choice. And me? I'm moving forward. Not bitter. Not broken. Just free. She stood in front of the mirror, curling her hair with the same precision she used the night we first met. Only this time, she wasn't doing it for me. Her red dress clung to her like sin itself, and her perfume, the same jasmine scent I used to bury my face into, filled the room like poison. I stood there, shirt half-buttoned, frozen, clutching a glass of whiskey like it could somehow stabilize the earthquake that had just cracked my world in half. I'm going out, she said casually, sliding a golden earring into place, her tone soaked in arrogance. Don't wait up. I blinked. Out? With who? She rolled her eyes like I was some clueless child. With a friend. You mean the same friend who's been texting you at 2 a.m.? The one who calls you baby and sends shirtless gym selfies. She finally turned to look at me, and for a second, I swore I saw the girl I married, soft eyes, warm heart. But that second was a lie, a trick of the light. Because what followed shattered any trace of hope I had left. You can just accept it, she said, smirking. Or lose everything. My mouth went dry. What the hell does that mean? She walked toward me, clicking her heels like a death march, and whispered with a venomous grin, it means I'm seeing someone else. It means I'm done pretending. And if you try to stop me, I'll make sure you come out of this with nothing. I'll take the house, the business, every damn thing you care about. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe the woman I once trusted with my darkest secrets was now threatening to destroy me if I didn't step aside while she slipped out to be with another man. Who is he? I asked, my voice cracking. She leaned in close. You'll know soon enough. I wanted to scream, break something, grab her phone, and expose every filthy lie she was hiding in there. But I didn't. Not yet. Because in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. And she didn't know who she was messing with. As she strutted toward the door, I noticed something. Her keys weren't hers. They belonged to my car. The one I bought. The one she used to beg me to let her drive. You're not taking my car, I said, stepping in front of the door. She stopped, raised an eyebrow, and without missing a beat said, then I guess I'll have to tell the judge about those little cash-only deals your business made last year. You think the IRS will be as forgiving as I was. And there it was. The dagger. She'd been saving it. Using it. Waiting for the day she could flip the switch and destroy me with the secrets I once thought were safe in her hands. My hands clenched. You've changed. She smiled. No. You just finally see me. The door slammed behind her like a gunshot, and the silence that followed felt like a tomb. I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. The clock ticked. The ice in my glass melted. And I realized something even more painful than the affair. She didn't even feel guilty. This wasn't some midlife crisis. This wasn't two people drifting apart. This was calculated. She had planned this. But she wasn't the only one who could play dirty. I picked up my phone and opened the hidden folder in my gallery. Screenshots. Messages. Voice notes. I'd started collecting them weeks ago when things stopped adding up. I didn't want to believe it back then. Now, I knew. She was mine once. But tonight, she declared herself an enemy. And I've never lost a war. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with the lights off, her perfume still hanging in the air like the memory of a slap. Every creak in the floorboards above made me imagine things, her sneaking back in, her whispering on the phone, her laughing at me with him. My imagination was doing more damage than she ever could. At 3:47 a.m., the front door opened. I didn't move. She stumbled in, heels in her hand, mascara smudged like a raccoon, hair a mess, lips swollen. She didn't see me in the dark. I let her walk right past me. She reeked of alcohol and another man's cologne. "You have a good night?" I said, my voice low. She jumped, clutching her purse like a startled thief. "Jesus, Nick. What the hell are you doing just sitting there like a freak? I could ask you the same." She didn't even try to lie. Just sighed like I was the inconvenience in her life. "Look," she started, kicking off her shoes. "We don't need to make this harder than it is. You knew this was coming." "Did I?" I stood up. Because I don't remember agreeing to let my wife turn into some nightclub groupie who threatens me on her way out the door. Her eyes narrowed. "You're being dramatic. You're cheating." She blinked. And the word hit harder than I expected. She wasn't denying it. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even ashamed. "I don't love you anymore, Nick. I haven't in a long time. I just didn't have the guts to end it. But now, I do." She dropped her purse and walked to the kitchen. "You should thank me for finally being honest." "Honest? You've been lying to my face for months. Because you couldn't handle the truth." She poured herself a glass of water like we were discussing the weather. "You haven't touched me in weeks. You're always working. What did you expect to happen?" I expected my wife to come to me if she was unhappy. Not sneak around behind my back like some trashy high school girl with a crush on a thug. She slammed the glass down, water sloshing over the edge. "You're pathetic, Nick. Always pretending like you're in control. You're not. You never were." And there it was. Her real voice. Not the mask she wore at dinner parties. Not the sweetness she used when my mother was visiting. The real her, cold, manipulative, venomous. "You planned this," I said quietly. "The threats, the cheating, even the timing. You waited until the business was doing well so you could take half of everything." She smirked. "Took you long enough to catch on." My fingers twitched with the urge to destroy something, her phone, the TV, the house. But I didn't. I walked past her and into the office. Closed the door. Locked it. I needed space. I opened the drawer, pulled out the manila envelope I'd been hiding, and dumped its contents onto the desk. Photos. Receipts. GPS records from the tracker I'd hidden in her car. Even a hotel room charge she forgot to hide. I had it all. I stared at the evidence. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal on a level I couldn't comprehend. She used my money, my trust, and my silence to build a fantasy life for herself, and now she thought she could walk away clean. I wasn't going to let her. Around 5 a.m., I heard her footsteps again. She knocked once on the door. "Nick, let's just talk." "Not now. Don't be a baby." I opened the door slowly. "You're right. Let's talk." She stepped back, surprised by the change in my tone. I handed her a sheet of paper. Her face went pale as she read it. "What's this?" "My lawyer's card. You'll be hearing from him in the morning." "You're divorcing me? You thought I wouldn't? After everything?" She stared at me, mouth open, eyes blinking rapidly. She didn't expect this. She thought I'd beg, cry, crumble. She didn't expect me to stand up. "Fine," she hissed. "But you're not getting away clean. You think you can play dirty? I can ruin you, Nick." I smiled, for the first time that night. "You already tried. You failed." And I closed the door in her face. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, but it was mine. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The war had started, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I'd loved her. I'd build a life with her. But she burned it down. Now, I'd walk through the ashes with my head high, and she'd choke on the smoke. The next morning, Sunlight crept through the blinds like nothing had happened, as if the house didn't reek of betrayal. I hadn't slept, but I wasn't tired. Something else had taken over, something sharper than rage, colder than heartbreak. I showered, shaved, dressed like it was just another Tuesday. Except it wasn't. She was still in the house, probably thinking it was all a bluff. Probably texting that lowlife she risked everything for, laughing about how poor Nick finally snapped. She was wrong. I walked downstairs and found her sitting at the table, sipping coffee like nothing had changed. She didn't look up. "You're still here," she muttered. "I live here." "You don't. Not for long." That got her attention. She set the cup down and raised an eyebrow. "So we're really doing this?" I dropped a thick folder on the table. She flinched slightly at the sound. "Everything you've done, everywhere you've been. There are timestamps, receipts, even video." She flipped it open, and her face drained of color when she saw a still shot of her entering the Midtown Hotel with that bastard. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. "I didn't." "Save it." I cut her off. "I don't want your excuses. I just want you gone." "You think this makes you look like a hero?" she snapped. "You think you're so righteous, but you were never there for me. You spent more time with your laptop than with your wife." "I was building something for us," I said. "A future. A life." "Well, I didn't ask for that kind of life. You didn't ask for honesty, either. You asked for a man you could manipulate. And you had him until now." She stood up, crossed her arms. "Fine. You want a divorce? I'll take half of everything." I nodded. "Try it. But when your new boyfriend sees the kind of attention you'll be getting from my lawyer, I wonder if he'll still be so eager to play house with you." That hit her where it hurt. Her chin wobbled just for a second, before she forced herself to smirk again. "He's not like you." "No," I said calmly. "He's stupid." She stormed off, slamming the door to the bedroom so hard a frame fell off the wall. I didn't flinch. I picked up the picture and placed it face down on the shelf. By noon, I changed the account passwords, transferred the business assets, and moved all essential documents to my brother's house. I wasn't going to let her sink the ship I built. She wanted to play dirty, but I knew the rules better. My phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. I opened it and saw a picture. It was her. With him. In some club, his hand halfway up her dress, her mouth next to his ear like she was marking territory. The caption? "She's mine now. Accept it." I stared at the screen. Not with anger. With amusement. These two thought they were untouchable. I saved the photo and added it to the case folder. Let them have their fun. The more reckless they got, the easier it would be to bury them both in legal paperwork and public shame. Around 4 p.m., I heard her talking loudly in the bedroom. I stepped closer. She was on speakerphone, pacing. "Nick's playing tough, but he'll cave," she said. "He's always been soft. Give me a week, and I'll have the money flowing. We'll be out of this house and in Miami by next month." I walked in, silent. She turned, startled. "I didn't hear you." "I'm sure you didn't," I said. "You were too busy planning your escape with the man who's about to get slapped with a lawsuit." She stammered. "You were eavesdropping?" "No, just walking into my bedroom." "You forgot it's still mine." She fumbled for her phone, trying to end the call, but I'd already heard everything I needed. "I want you out by tomorrow," I said. "And if I'm not? Then you'll watch a judge read every line of that folder in front of a packed courtroom, and I'll make sure your mom is in the front row." She paled. "You wouldn't. You really don't know me at all, do you?" That night, she didn't come home. I didn't ask where she went. I didn't care. I stood in the backyard under the stars, thinking about how many times I'd looked at those same constellations beside her, dreaming about kids, vacations, growing old together. Now, the silence felt like a clean slate. Not peace yet, but something close. The next morning, the bedroom was still empty. Her side of the bed, untouched. Not a single dent in the pillow. No trace of her perfume. And for the first time in months, I didn't hate waking up. She didn't come back, not that day, not the one after. I assumed she was with him, probably laughing over cocktails, convinced she'd gotten the upper hand. But what she didn't realize is that I had already set things in motion. My lawyer, Alan, was fast, ruthless, and cold in a way I could never be. He didn't ask questions. Just moved. By noon, the petition was filed, and temporary restraining orders for access to joint accounts were approved. Her little fantasy life was about to run out of gas. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. But watching her squirm along the way? That was just the bonus. 3 days later, she showed up again. Dressed down. No makeup. Not even a fake smile. She looked small. Tired. But I didn't care. Nick, she said softly, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't tried to gut me. I stood in the doorway, blocking her from coming inside. You forgot your charger? She sighed. I didn't come to fight. You think this is still about fighting? You left. You threatened me. You tried to humiliate me. This isn't a fight. This is cleanup. I messed up, she said, eyes glassy. No. You made choices. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Which part? The threats? The affair? Or the part where you called me pathetic? She looked down. I just needed something different. I felt like I was suffocating here. And your solution was to light everything on fire? Tears welled up in her eyes. For a second, it almost got to me. Almost. But then I remembered the photo of her grinding on him, her message to her lover saying I was just a sad man clinging to routine. I came to get the rest of my stuff, she said after a long pause. I stepped aside. Be quick. She walked in quietly. No heels. No attitude. Just a woman who thought she'd be the hurricane but ended up getting swept up by her own storm. I sat on the stairs as she moved through the house, boxing up makeup, jewelry, a few dresses, her laptop. She didn't touch the wedding photos. Didn't even look at them. I guess they meant as little to her as her vows. As she was about to leave, she turned to me, keys in hand. Was any of it real to you? I didn't flinch. It was. Until it wasn't. And she left. That night, I finally let myself break. I poured another drink and sat in the living room in the dark. All those memories, her laugh in the kitchen, dancing barefoot during thunderstorms, late-night road trips, they weren't real anymore. They felt like dreams someone else had. I hated how much I missed her. Hated that my chest ached when I passed her empty chair at the table. But most of all, I hated that the person I once loved had become someone I couldn't even look at without feeling disgust. I stared at the divorce documents on the coffee table. Her signature was there, messy, like she didn't care. But mine wasn't yet. I hesitated. Then I signed. The next day, I sent the signed documents to Alan and booked a flight to Denver. I needed space. Air. A reset. I called my brother and told him I was coming. As I packed, I found something in the bottom drawer of my nightstand. A birthday card she wrote me 2 years ago. It said, "No matter what happens, I'll never stop choosing you." I laughed. Bitter. Hollow. I ripped it in half and tossed it in the trash. She stopped choosing me the moment she started hiding her phone. At the airport, I looked around at all the people, families, couples, strangers, and I felt something unfamiliar. Relief. Not happiness yet, but relief. She tried to break me. She used love like a weapon. But all she did was give me a reason to find myself again. And the man I'm becoming now? He's someone she'll never get to know. Denver hit different. The air was cold, clean, like it hadn't been poisoned by lies yet. My brother Jason picked me up from the airport. He didn't ask too many questions, just gave me that look, the kind only someone who's seen you fall before can give, and handed me a black coffee without saying a word. We drove in silence for a while, just music and mountain roads. He had a place up near Evergreen. Quiet. No neighbors. Just enough room for a man to breathe again. I stayed in his guest room the first night, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to feel. Angry? Free? Lonely? Truth was, I didn't feel anything. I was emptied out. Like she'd scooped me hollow. The next morning, I finally told Jason everything, how she threatened me, the affair, the way she smiled when she admitted it, like she was proud. He didn't interrupt. Just nodded, his jaw clenching tighter with every sentence. Nick, you married a demon, he finally said. And demons only understand fire. I laughed. For the first time in weeks, I laughed so hard I had to wipe tears from my eyes. It didn't make anything better, but it reminded me I was still alive. I stayed in Denver for a week. Hiked. Drank whiskey. Went off-grid. No emails, no social media, no lawyer calls. Just me. Jason took me to an old boxing gym he used to train at. I hadn't thrown a punch in years, but when that glove hit the bag for the first time, something cracked inside me. I lost count of the rounds. I just kept swinging. On day 5, I got a message from Alan. Check your email. You're gonna want to see this. I opened it and froze. A thread of text between her and the guy she cheated with. His name was Brandon, by the way. Real original. In the screenshots, she was trashing me, bragging about how she'd bleed me dry. One message read, "He's too weak to fight me. Always was. I'll get half, and then maybe I'll let Brandon move into the house just to piss him off." I read it twice, then a third time, and I smiled. Because the more rope she gave me, the harder she was going to hang herself. I forwarded everything to Alan with one line: "Let's finish this." By the time I got back home, her name was already being dragged through the dirt in the early stages of proceedings. Alan had filed a motion to freeze her accounts pending investigation of financial manipulation and infidelity. And just like that, the fake empire she thought she had built started to crumble. She tried to call me. I didn't answer. She tried to show up at the house. I didn't open the door. She even emailed me some long, fake sincere letter about how she was confused and pressured by bad influences. I printed it, crumpled it, and threw it into the fire pit. A few days later, I ran into her by accident at the grocery store. She looked thinner, hollow, makeup caked on like a mask. She was standing by the frozen section, staring at bags of pre-cooked shrimp like they held the meaning of life. When she saw me, her lips parted. "Nick." I raised a hand to cut her off. "Don't. Just give me a second." There's nothing left to say. Her eyes searched mine for something: pity, pain, hope. I gave her nothing. She didn't deserve even a blink. She stepped closer. "I miss you." "Yeah? You miss the man you lied to? The one you tried to financially destroy?" I was scared, she whispered. "No," I said calmly. "You were selfish. There's a difference." I walked past her. She didn't follow. That night, I cooked myself dinner. Alone. Steak, roasted potatoes, bottle of red. Music playing low in the background. I sat in the same kitchen where we used to eat in silence, pretending everything was okay. But now, I didn't have to pretend. I wasn't okay yet, but at least I was honest about it. As I took my last sip of wine, I looked at the phone on the counter. No texts. No lies. No threats. And for the first time in a long, long time, I exhaled. The next few weeks passed like a slow unwinding. Everything she left behind, her clothes, her stupid, live, laugh, love, wall art, the perfume bottle on the bathroom shelf, I packed it all up in boxes and left it in the garage. I didn't throw it out. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it because I couldn't let the smell of her linger 1 second longer. I switched up everything. New locks. New mattress. Hell, even the damn plates. We'd picked them together in some overpriced home goods store, pretending to be a happy couple while she was already emotionally gone. I sold them all. Ate off paper plates for a while. And you know what? It felt cleaner. My friends started checking in. Some offered condolences like I'd lost a family member. Others were just curious, hungry for drama. Did she really cheat? Do you know who the guy is? What are you going to do now? I gave short answers. Changed the subject. Because no one really understands it unless they've been in it. No one really knows what it's like to look someone in the eye for years, trust them with your life, and then realize they were wearing a mask the whole time. But I was healing. Slowly. I could feel it. I started running in the mornings, headphones in, no destination, just movement. I changed my phone number. Deleted old photos. Blocked her on everything. It wasn't out of spite. It was necessity. Her voice had lived in my head for too long. She had no right to stay rent-free in there anymore. One night, around 2 a.m., my phone lit up. Unknown number. I stared at it. It rang again. Against better judgment, I answered. "Nick?" Her voice was soft. Tired. I didn't say anything. "I know you don't want to hear from me," she whispered. "But I don't know who else to talk to." "You have Brandon," I said flatly. There was a pause. "He's gone. Left 2 weeks ago. Took my car. My savings. Everything." I should have felt satisfaction. But all I felt was nothing. "Yes, he was in it for the right reasons," I muttered. "I deserve that," she said quietly. "I deserve worse." Another pause. Then, "I made a mistake." "You made a decision." "I was stupid." "No. You were cruel. There's a difference." She started crying, real messy crying, the kind that used to break my heart. But now, it just felt like static. White noise from a station I stopped listening to. I just wanted someone to choose me. I did. Every damn day. I hung up. The next morning, I donated all the clothes she left behind. Every single pair of heels, jackets, those designer bags I bought her on anniversaries. I took the boxes to a women's shelter downtown. Drove home with the windows down and music blasting like I was 20 again. A few days later, the divorce was finalized. Clean break. No alimony. No asset split. She signed everything without a fight. I think she finally understood she'd already lost. Jason came over that night with a bottle of bourbon and 2 cigars. "To freedom," he said, clinking his glass against mine. We drank in the backyard under the same stars I once wished on with her. Only now, I didn't wish for her to come back. I wished for peace, and it was finally starting to arrive. I still think about her sometimes. Not with love, not even with hate, just with clarity. She taught me exactly what I never want again, what I will never tolerate again. And I thank her for that. Quietly, from a distance. She thought I'd fall apart, but I didn't. I rebuilt. And this version of me? He doesn't beg. He doesn't break. He doesn't forget. But most importantly, he doesn't ever let someone like her back in. About a month later, I bumped into her mom at the farmer's market. She was standing by a stand of fresh peaches, staring off like her thoughts were 1,000 miles away. I almost walked past without saying anything, but she spotted me. "Oh, Nick," she said, surprised. "You look good." I nodded. "Thanks. You too." There was a strange pause, like we were both holding something sharp behind our backs. Then she looked down and said softly, "I'm sorry for everything." I wasn't sure what to say to that. I'd always liked her, even when her daughter started acting off. She was kind, always welcoming. But after everything, I didn't know how to look her in the eye without seeing her. "It's not your fault," I said. "We all make choices." She told me parts of what happened. Not all of it, I'm sure. I raised an eyebrow. "Did she tell you she threatened to ruin my life if I didn't look the other way?" She winced. "No, she didn't say that." "Well, now you know." She reached out, touched my arm. "I hope you find someone who sees what she was too blind to appreciate." I gave her a small, polite smile. "I already did." She looked confused. I found myself. I left her standing there, holding a peach she didn't buy. That night, I started writing again. I used to keep journals, notebooks filled with ideas, thoughts, feelings, back before life got too busy, too loud. I pulled out an old leather-bound one and opened it to a blank page. She thought she ended me. She actually handed me back my life. The words flowed like blood from a reopened wound, but writing them made me feel alive, like I'd ripped off the bandages and was finally letting fresh air hit. I didn't care if anyone ever read it. This was for me. A few nights later, Jason dragged me to a bar. One of those casual places with live music and no pretense. I almost didn't go, but something in me said, "Go live again." That's when I met her, Claire. No expectations. No plans. Just two people sitting near the same pool table, ordering the same drink, laughing at the same off-key band trying to cover Fleetwood Mac. She wasn't flashy. Wasn't trying too hard. Just real. We talked. Nothing deep. Music. Movies. Her dog that eats socks. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to hide anything. I didn't bring up my past, and she didn't ask. It wasn't about filling a void. It was just a night with someone who didn't carry daggers behind her back. When I got home, I didn't overthink it. I didn't stare at my phone waiting for a message. I just smiled. Not because she was the one, but because she reminded me that not everyone is like her. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. It was from her. 5 pages. Apologies. Regrets. A list of things she wished she could take back. She said Brandon took her money and disappeared. That he'd cheated on her with someone younger. That she was now sleeping on a friend's couch, trying to figure out how everything fell apart. She ended it with, "You were the only real thing in my life. I didn't deserve you. But I hope one day you'll think of me and remember something good." I folded the letter in half, tucked it in the back of the journal, and closed it. I didn't need to respond. Some ghosts don't need exorcising. They just need to fade. The next day, I took the long way to work. Windows down. Wind in my hair. Music blasting. I stopped at a red light and caught my reflection in the mirror. Same face. New eyes. Clearer. Sharper. No longer searching for answers in places where only betrayal lived. And for the first time since the night she walked out in that red dress, I said it out loud. "I'm good." And I meant it. Weeks passed. The chaos faded. No more late-night calls. No more courtroom drama. No more ghost texts. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that used to scare me. Now, I welcomed it. I redecorated the house, not to erase her, but to reclaim it. Took down every photo, every shared memory that hung like a rotten curtain over the past. I painted the walls a different color, switched the lighting, even threw out the couch where she used to scroll through her phone while ignoring me. I wasn't running from what happened. I was just finally walking towards something better. One Saturday morning, I sat on the porch with black coffee and nothing on my mind. That was rare. To not think. To not carry her voice around in the back of my skull like an echo that refused to die. The wind rustled the trees. A neighbor walked by with his dog. Life moved on. And so did I. She'd always thought I needed her, that I was weak, dependent, small without her by my side. But the truth is, she was the one who needed someone to dominate, to lie to keep wrapped around her finger like a fool. She mistook my loyalty for weakness, my patience for passivity, my love for blindness. But I saw everything. In the end, I saw it all. And I still chose to let her go. Not because I couldn't fight harder, but because she wasn't worth the version of me I would have become trying to win back someone so empty. So what did I learn? I learned that love doesn't always end with a goodbye. Sometimes it ends with a look in the mirror and a simple truth. You survived. And survival, when you've been burned that badly, is victory. To any man reading this, any man wondering if he's going crazy, wondering if the knot in his gut is paranoia or truth, listen. Trust your gut. Read between the silences. Don't beg to be respected. And if she ever looks you in the eyes while getting ready for a date with someone else and tells you you can just accept it, look her dead in the eyes and tell her. Not *ing chance. You'll lose money. You'll lose time. You'll lose peace for a while. But you'll gain something she can never steal again. Yourself. And that's everything. The nurse smiled when she saw me. Room 204, she said gently. My hands were sweating through the bouquet I brought. Blue roses, Melissa's favorite. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head for months. The hospital corridors echoed beneath my boots as I walked toward the room that would define the rest of my life. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw through that window. There was my wife, Melissa, lying in the hospital bed. Still glowing, beautiful, flawless. Too flawless. Too composed. She wasn't even looking at me. Her eyes were on him. Her boss, Ethan Carmichael. Armani suit wearing, teeth too white Ethan. Holding my baby. Or who I thought was mine. He cradled the child like he'd done it 1,000 times. And she didn't flinch. She didn't reach for her baby. She didn't reach for me. She reached for his hand. That's when the nurse said it. Casually. Like it was nothing. Mr. Bennett, I'm sorry. There's been a clarification on the birth record. You're not listed as the father. The roses hit the floor like bricks. I didn't scream. I didn't ask questions. I just looked at her through the glass. Melissa saw me. She knew I heard. And she smiled like I'd walked in on her watching her favorite sitcom. Then she leaned her head back and laughed. Laughed. At the moment my world came crashing down. I opened the door. The room went still. Ethan shifted, trying to shield the baby. Melissa tilted her head like I was the unexpected entertainment. My heart was thundering in my chest, but my voice came out cold. Steady. Congratulations, I said, on finally making your boss a father. But let's be clear, you just became a full-time employee of Karma. Silence. Even the baby stopped crying. That was the first moment Melissa stopped smiling. Her face dropped like a mask torn off. I stepped forward slowly, picked up the envelope from my coat pocket, and placed it on the table. Inside were the DNA results. The ones I had done the moment I noticed the timeline didn't add up. 8 months pregnant. Not 9. I'd been on a business trip during the window of conception. I knew. But I needed proof. Melissa didn't even look at the envelope. Are you done? She snapped, her voice dripping with that bitter superiority she'd perfected over the last year. Are you seriously making my delivery about you? Ethan looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. I looked her dead in the eyes. No, Melissa. I'm making it about the truth. Something you stopped using the moment you started staying late at work. Her eyes narrowed, venom flashing. Get out. I turned, walked past the nurse who looked like she wanted to vanish. The hallway was still, cold. I could feel the world I'd built collapsing behind me brick by brick. Vows, trust, dreams. All of it turned to ash. But I didn't look back. Because part of me already knew this was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my hotel bed, still in the same clothes I'd worn to the hospital. The envelope with the DNA results was lying on the nightstand, already opened. I didn't need to look at it again. I had the words burned into my memory. Probability of paternity, 0%. I had to read it 3 times when I first got the call. The lab technician even asked me if I wanted to rerun the sample, just to be sure. But I already was. Deep down, I'd known the truth for weeks. Maybe longer. It all started when Melissa's work hours became unpredictable. The firm had landed some new corporate account, and suddenly her phone was blowing up at all hours. She'd leave the bedroom to take calls at midnight, whispering behind closed doors. If I asked questions, she'd snap, accuse me of not trusting her. I thought I was going crazy. At first. Then there were the business trips, always with Ethan. They'd be gone for weekends at a time. No texts. No updates. Just her coming back with that smug look like she had nothing to explain. The perfume on her clothes didn't match her usual brand. Once, she left her laptop open, and I saw a calendar invite for a hotel dinner, just her and Ethan. When I brought it up, she turned it into my problem. Oh my God, you're being so insecure. Ethan's like a mentor to me. Just because you're some small-time contractor doesn't mean I should stop growing my career. That's how she always did it. Deflect, belittle, and twist. Every time I tried to bring up the inconsistencies, she made it about me being jealous, controlling, or paranoid. But something snapped inside me after she got pregnant. The timeline was too tight. I was gone the entire window she should have conceived. But she insisted the due date was early. Not every pregnancy follows a textbook, she said. God, read a book for once. So I smiled, nodded, waited. Behind the scenes, I ordered the test. I played the supportive husband role. I paid for the baby shower, took photos for her Instagram, let her post captions like "can't wait to meet our little miracle," while knowing damn well that miracle came from somewhere else. And the worst part? I wanted to be wrong. Even with everything I suspected, part of me hoped I was just overthinking. That maybe I'd miscounted the days. That maybe I was the father. But I wasn't. And now the entire city probably knew it too. The celebration at the hospital, her coworkers, friends, family, they were all there. They heard my words. They saw her face. The laughter stopped cold, and for the first time in our relationship, she didn't have a comeback. She had nothing. And yet, I still couldn't sleep. Because betrayal isn't just a knife, it's a slow burn that eats you alive from the inside out. Melissa hadn't just cheated on me. She made me love a lie. 2 days after the hospital, I returned to our house not to stay, but to collect what was mine. My lawyer had already begun drafting the divorce papers. I just wanted to grab the essentials: clothes, tools, documents. When I pulled into the driveway, her car wasn't there. Good. I didn't want another scene. Not yet. The front door still had the wreath she put up for the baby's arrival. Home sweet home, it read in golden cursive, decorated with pastel ribbons. I almost laughed. Nothing about that house felt sweet anymore. Inside, it was spotless. Like she had scrubbed every surface to erase any trace of guilt. But that's the thing about betrayal, it leaves fingerprints no soap can reach. I went straight to the bedroom. That's when I saw it. Her phone, left charging on the nightstand. It was unlocked. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But I did. Because part of me still needed the full picture, the kind of pain that confirms what the heart already suspects. The first message was from Ethan. Miss you already. Baby looks just like me, winking face. When can I see you again? There were photos. Private ones. Not just of them together. Of her posing, teasing, moaning through text. Dressed in the lingerie I bought. On the bed we shared. Then voice notes. One of them was her whispering. God, Ethan, I wish I met you before I wasted all those years with him. Wasted. Years. With me. I nearly crushed the phone in my hand. I scrolled through more messages. They'd been seeing each other for almost a year and a half. Dinner dates disguised as late meetings. Office retreats that turned into weekend getaways. Every memory she gave me during that time tainted. Rotten. But there was more. She wasn't just cheating emotionally or physically. She was scheming. Screenshots of our joint bank accounts. Conversations about property values. Even a draft prenup she had forged with a fake signature in case I got stubborn during the divorce. She was planning my exit before I ever knew I had to leave. That wasn't just cheating. That was warfare. I left the house without touching another thing. Not my clothes, not my photos, not the books I loved. I didn't want her to say I stole a damn thing. I left the phone right there on the pillow, screen still lit up, Ethan's smug grin staring back. When I reached my truck, I took one last look at the house. Our home. The place where I thought I'd raise a child. Grow old. Watch sunsets from the porch. Now it was just another crime scene. And she was the weapon. She called that night. I let it ring. She called again. Then left a voicemail. Logan, stop being dramatic. You embarrassed me at the hospital. You didn't have to say that in front of everyone. You could have handled it like an adult. Like an adult? The audacity. I didn't respond. The next morning, I got a message from her mother. Please talk to Melissa. She's very upset. She didn't mean for this to happen this way. Didn't mean for what to happen? To get caught? To parade her boss and baby like some twisted fairy tale? She didn't mean for me to find out before she finished rewriting the script of our lives? That afternoon, she showed up at my hotel uninvited. I opened the door and stared at her, still in full makeup, as if she was dressing for a courtroom, not an apology. She had our baby in her arms. No ring on her finger. "Can I come in?" she asked, like this was just some minor misunderstanding. I stepped aside. She didn't sit. She paced. Typical Melissa commanding the room. "Even now, I get that you're angry," she began, "but you need to understand. Things haven't been working between us for a long time. You've been distant. And Ethan, he was there for me when you weren't." "Melissa," I said slowly, "I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for your car, your lifestyle, and that house you wanted so badly. Distant? I was exhausted from carrying everything while you were sneaking off to hotel rooms with your boss." Her face twitched. She didn't like being challenged. "Never had. I was lonely," she snapped. "You don't know what it's like, being with someone who's emotionally unavailable." I laughed bitterly. "You mean someone who didn't shower you with constant praise while you played house with another man?" Silence. She shifted the baby, who started to fuss. "Look," she said, softening her voice, "I didn't plan this. It just happened. Ethan didn't mean for it to go this far either. We didn't expect to fall in love." Fall in love. That phrase stung like a bullet to the chest. "And the baby?" I asked. "Were you ever going to tell me? Or was I just going to raise him while you played pretend?" She didn't answer. That was my answer. "I want full custody," I said flatly. Her head jerked up. "You're not even the father." "But I would have been. I was ready." "You weren't." She blinked rapidly, but no tears came. "You're a monster," she hissed. "You're trying to ruin my life just because I found happiness somewhere else." I stepped forward and looked her dead in the eyes. "No, Melissa. You ruined your life. I'm just walking away from the wreckage." She stood frozen for a second, then grabbed the baby carrier and stormed out. That was the last time she ever looked at me with power in her eyes. Because from that moment on, I wasn't her fool anymore. The divorce moved faster than I expected. I'd hired a lawyer known for being merciless. A woman named Dana Cross, cold, sharp, terrifying in court. She listened to everything. Every message. Every file. Every lie. When I handed her the forged prenup Melissa and Ethan drafted behind my back, she didn't blink. Just said, "She's going to regret underestimating you." I didn't even want the house anymore. Too many ghosts in the walls. But Dana said, "We take it. We take everything they thought they could build together, brick by brick." So we did. Melissa fought back at first. Tried to negotiate, begged for joint custody of the dog, then claimed I was emotionally abusive, that I isolated her. Her lawyer tried to paint me as cold and controlling. But screenshots don't lie. Voice memos don't lie. DNA tests definitely don't lie. Ethan tried to stay behind the curtain, but once the documents became public, his name was everywhere. The media got wind of it. Office affair. Married executive. Scandal. Melissa lost her job within the week. Turns out, Ethan was married too. His wife filed for divorce the moment the story hit the news. The baby they thought would cement their love? Now a legal tug-of-war between two disgraced people with reputations in flames. I didn't say a word publicly. Not once. But behind the scenes? I bought a cabin in Montana. Quiet. Isolated. Peaceful. My phone barely works there, and I like it that way. I started sketching again. Building. Breathing. Meanwhile, Melissa's world collapsed. She messaged me once, weeks after the court settled everything. The message was short. "I miss how simple it was with you." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed her, but because it confirmed everything. She never wanted me. She wanted comfort. Control. A stage to stand on while I held the spotlight. And when someone richer, sleeker, flashier came along, she replaced the man, but not the story. Melissa didn't fall in love. She upgraded her illusion, and it backfired in high definition. I didn't reply to the message. Didn't block her either. Some people deserve to see how far they fall when they try to fly on lies. One night, I ran into a mutual friend, Rachel, someone who always tried to stay neutral. She asked me, "How are you holding up after everything?" I smiled. Genuinely. "Better than ever," I said. "Because I'm finally free of a war I didn't know I was fighting." She nodded and said quietly, "She never deserved you." And for once, I believed it. A few months passed. The chaos faded, but the echoes remained. Every time I opened a drawer and saw something she picked out, it was like a mosquito bite on a scar, small, but sharp enough to remind me that healing isn't always peaceful. I had a habit of rereading the DNA report at night, not because I needed proof anymore, but because I wanted to remember. Not the betrayal itself, but how blind I'd been to it. How willing I was to believe love meant sacrificing my own intuition. That paper wasn't just science, it was my wake-up call. I deleted the last photo of us together. It was taken at a Christmas party the year before. She was wearing red lipstick, hanging on my arm, smiling like she hadn't already burned our marriage to the ground behind my back. I'd looked at that photo for months, trying to find signs. Now I saw it for what it was: performance art. Nothing more. One day, I got a call from Ethan's wife, ex-wife now. Her name was Claire. We'd never spoken before. "I thought you deserved to hear it from me," she said. Her voice was calm, deliberate. "He's already seeing someone new. A paralegal from his office." I didn't laugh, even though I wanted to. Instead, I just said, "That tracks." Claire paused. Then, "You ever wonder if they even feel guilt?" I thought for a moment. No. I think people like them only feel regret when they lose power. Guilt requires a conscience. And that's not in their toolbox. We ended the call respectfully, two former strangers with shared wreckage between us. That weekend, I cleaned out the attic. Melissa's journals were still there, boxed up with her college trophies and yearbooks. I almost threw it all out, but curiosity is a wicked thing. I opened one journal at random. March 14th. Just weeks before the affair began. "Logan is sweet but predictable. I don't think he even sees me anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating in his version of happiness. Ethan makes me feel noticed. Wanted. Like I matter." I shut the book. Predictable. That's what she thought of me. A man who fixed her car in winter, brought her soup when she was sick, took her to every doctor appointment while she carried another man's child. Predictable. But maybe she was right, because I never saw the venom behind her smile. Never expected betrayal to wear perfume and heels and call me baby before kissing my cheek and lying through her teeth. I threw the journal in the fireplace and watched it burn, page by page. That night, I didn't dream of her. For the first time in years. And in the silence that followed, I realized something. Sometimes, peace doesn't arrive with closure. It arrives with distance. And the decision to never let anyone write over your worth again. The snow came early that year. I was out by the cabin, stacking firewood when the silence hit me, not the kind that's empty, but the kind that feels earned. You don't realize how loud betrayal is until it's gone. The constant tension, the fake smiles, the manipulation behind every "I love you." Now, all I heard were birds and wind and my own breath. I kept thinking about the man I used to be. The one who apologized when she forgot things. The one who stayed up until 2 a.m. to build a crib for a child he didn't make, with a woman who called him suffocating in private. That man had died at the hospital the moment Melissa laughed through the glass. The man left behind had no space left for illusions. I didn't date, didn't drink, didn't rage. I rebuilt. Rebuilding doesn't sound sexy. It's not a movie montage with upbeat music and inspirational speeches. It's waking up at 6 a.m. and making coffee without crying. It's throwing out the plate she used to love because you don't want to see it anymore. It's learning how to cook for one and eventually liking it. It's stillness. One morning, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A letter, handwritten, in the loopy cursive I hadn't seen since our wedding invitations. Melissa. The envelope sat on my table for 2 days. On the third, I opened it. "I've made so many mistakes. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not for what I did, but for what I ruined. I ruined you. I ruined us. And I don't sleep through the night anymore." There were more words. Pages of them. Remorse dressed in poetry. Regret coated in self-pity. I folded the letter, lit a match, and let it join the journal in the fire. Her guilt was not my responsibility. Not anymore. That same afternoon, I got a knock at the cabin door. It was Claire. She had been passing through, she said. Wanted to see the mountains. Thought maybe we could get coffee. We sat on the porch in silence for almost 20 minutes, watching the sky turn the color of bruised lavender. She didn't mention Ethan. I didn't mention Melissa. We just talked about books, about life, about how quiet can feel like music after enough chaos. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about who wronged me. I was thinking about who I could become now that the noise was gone. Sometimes revenge is just survival. And sometimes the best closure is no longer needing any. It's been a year now. 12 months since the glass window. Since the laughter. Since the roses hit the floor. And you know what? I don't think about her every day anymore. That realization came quietly. I was chopping vegetables one evening, radio humming in the background, when I suddenly noticed it had been days, maybe weeks, since Melissa's name had even crossed my mind. There was no rage left, no grief, no bitterness. Just space. Empty, but calm. She texted me again last month. One of those, hope you're doing okay, messages that sound harmless but drip with ulterior motives. I didn't answer. Not out of pettiness. Out of peace. I finally understood that closure wasn't something she could give me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even revenge. It was this, knowing I'd never let someone like her define me again. I don't hate her anymore. I pity her. Because she traded loyalty for lust, a future for a fling, and a partner for a paycheck. And when the consequences came knocking, she realized she was never built for the weight of real life, only the illusion of winning. Meanwhile, I kept building. The cabin's finished now. Fully furnished, warm, and quiet. I installed a wood-burning stove, planted a small garden, even carved a few pieces of furniture myself. Every inch of it carries my effort. My story. My fingerprints. Sometimes, Claire visits. We don't talk about what happened. We don't have to. There's something healing about sitting beside someone who knows your kind of damage. Someone who doesn't look at your scars like warnings, but like weathered maps of where you've been. We fish in the nearby stream. We cook. We read. It's not romantic, at least not yet. But it's real. And after everything, real feels like a miracle. If you ask me what I've learned, it's this. Never hand your loyalty to someone who treats it like a disposable gift. Pay attention to patterns, not promises. And if something feels off, trust your gut. Your heart may love blindly, but your soul always knows the truth. I used to think love was measured by what you were willing to forgive. Now I know. It's also about what you're no longer willing to accept. To anyone out there going through what I went through, listen carefully. You will survive this. Not because it doesn't hurt. Not because justice will always be served. But because you'll eventually see that their betrayal said everything about them and nothing about your worth. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are just learning what not to tolerate. And one day, when the fire dies down and the smoke clears, you'll see the truth written in the ashes. They didn't break you. They freed you.